Brother Mohammed Faris, author of the Barakah Effect and the Productive Muslim, as well as the Productive Muslim Company, which coaches Muslims and anyone of any faith background, but with a faith-based productivity mindset, the Barakah Effect mindset. And you could subscribe to your newsletter at theproductivemuslim.com. Yes. Is that correct?
Inshallah, inshallah.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. Thank you for having me. Bismillah.
Now, I have in front of me here, which you were so gracious and generous to send me, the Barakah Effect, right here, a very popular book. If you were so popular that I was mentioned on the show, and I immediately knew that I wanted to have you on. And one of the ways that you start off the book was with the story of AlBaik.
Yes.
From Saudi Arabia. If you've ever been to Umrah or Hajj, you know AlBaik. Can you tell me their story and how they utilize the Barakah Effect?
Absolutely. So the story is something that I love because I'm sure if we get into Umrah, most of us, we go there and we come back with some fond memories of AlBaik if you're ever hungry in Hajj or Umrah. And the story goes that Shakur Ghazala, who is the founder of AlBaik, he decided in 1976, I think, to start a high quality fried chicken in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So he went to Italy, got the machinery, the recipes, and he started this restaurant called Brost, and it was not doing well. In fact, he was actually losing money. And 2 years after he started the restaurant, he actually passed away from cancer. Now, when his children took over the business, they found a restaurant that's not doing well, in debt. And they also found out that their father used to give 1 riyal in charity for every fried chicken he sold. Now, if you're a management consultant and you're invited to, look at the restaurant and look at the books of the profit and loss account, and probably wondering, wait, Mr. Shakur, why are you giving money in charity when you're losing money? It doesn't make any business sense. However, when the kids found out that, and when the two sons found out that, and the charity organizations that used to get this money sort of came to the sons and say, would you continue father's legacy? They said yes. In fact, we'll actually double it. We'll give 2 riyals in charity for every fried chicken we sell. It did not make any business sense, but it made what I call barakah sense. It's when you know that there's barakah in sadaqah, that there's barakah when you give in charity, and you might not see in your lifetime. This is the part that kind of hits me the most. Shakur Ghazala, when he gave that charity, most of us, when we give charity, we kind of expect the instant ROI, right? You're like, oh yeah, give charity and expect something in return.
For sure, yeah.
But he gave charity, believing in the barakah of giving charity, even though his business was struggling and didn't do well. And he passed away 2 years into the start of the business. He didn't realize that 20 years later, AlBaik will be given an exclusive contract to serve millions of Hujjaj fried chicken in Mina. And I feel like that sometimes, this idea of barakah, it gave me a different definition. A lot of times when we think of barakah, we tend to think of it in a very, say, shallow terms or very basic terms. Oh, X equals Y, right? If I do this, this will happen. And what I try to do with the Barakah Effect is to explain, yes, rituals have an impact on barakah. Of course, charity has an impact, salah has impact, salawat has impact. But I was trying to help teachers really make sure I understand barakah from a holistic perspective. It's about the mindsets, the values, and the rituals. And barakah does not mean always a rosy sort of picture. Barakah might be through just having tranquility and peace of mind and conviction despite the hardships you go through. So that was the story of AlBaik, and I was just fascinated by that story. That's why I started the book with it.
Yeah, it is a fascinating story, and I didn't know that about them. All I knew is that they had really good chicken, and I should go check them out. The fact that that's what he did is mind-blowing and something that we know all too well. But one thing that you said there is you feel tranquility in your heart even when you go through hardship. But what if you don't feel tranquility in your heart even though you're going through hardship? Does that mean there's no barakah?
Love that. So the way I explain barakah sometimes is say, how do you experience barakah? Most of us think of barakah in the sort of increase in growth and success, right? I think that's the barakah. And that's one way that barakah manifests itself, which is, material increase. However, sometimes barakah can manifest itself in different ways. For example, barakah can be just the fact that you're continuing something, right? This podcast, for example, I was surprised when before the show you say this has been 5 years going. MashaAllah, like that's just the fact that something continues, something that's good, that's beneficial, continues. That's barakah. It may not mean it explodes, it becomes popular. Inshallah, it will, of course. But let's say, for example, like the fact you did it for 20, 30 years and you're consistent with it. That's barakah. The fact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you to continue good work for so many years, that's barakah. Sometimes barakah is stability, right? We all went through COVID and we felt when life felt unstable. Having stability in your mental health, having stability in your health, stability in your marriage, stability in your house, stability in your just being able to hold it. People lost their mind. People were like fighting over toilet paper because they lost it because there's no stability. Having stability, that's a form of barakah. But sometimes, like I said, sometimes there might be unseen ways that barakah manifests itself where you're going through a very difficult time. And there's the idea of Allah yarbat ala qalbak. Allah kind of holds your heart together, right? So that you don't lose it. Because it's very easy when you're going through trials to lose it. And being able to have that stability in your heart, that's a form of barakah. Now, if you struggle with that, right? That struggle is normal, struggle is human. But part of it is again, this way again, the mindsets, the values, the rituals help you get that stability. So let's say you're going through a difficult situation and your heart is not at rest. You're just like, I don't know if I can handle this. That's when you embody the mindsets, for example, the mindset of gratitude, the mindset of abundance, the mindset of taqwa, the mindset that there's akhirah, the value of ihsan, the value of generosity, the value of family, the ritual of salah, the ritual of salawat, the ritual of adhkar. So these things together kind of create that barakah in your heart, so it helps to give you that stability, inshallah.
Here's the caveat to what you're saying, though, is that sometimes when you do have those rituals, which end up being a firm, strict schedule in some ways, especially when you're 90 days in plus into that ritual, it really starts feeling like, oh, I got to wake up at 9 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whenever and do my adhkar or my prayers. Mm-hmm. But then when you're feeling that constraint in your heart or that difficulty in your life, you fall on that schedule because you oversleep. You don't want to wake up the next morning. And so you lose, it becomes a snowball effect of negativity. Is there a way to snap out of that?
I love it. Yeah, and when you, again, one thing that we need to recognize that as human beings, some people ask me this question a lot: can we be consistent all the time, right? Every day, same thing, same schedule. I said we're not machines.
I feel like no, yeah.
Yeah, we're not machines. We're human beings. And one of the fallacies, that's why I teach faith-based productivity, is that sometimes a lot of the productivity models out there, they're models against machines, right? As a human being, you got to be like a machine every day. And that's 4 o'clock, every day, 5 o'clock. You're not machines. That's why prayer times change across the seasons, right? To challenge that sometimes is to recognize the seasonality of human being. And there's a beautiful hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that says, لِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ. For every moment of zeal and excitement and like, oh, I'm going all out, I'm hitting all the points, there's a moment of slackening, right? That's natural.
Really?
Yeah.
You said that?
Yeah. لِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ. Every moment of zeal, every moment of I'm going all out, there's a fatra, there's a slackening. But here's the catch. If those moments slackening, what do you say? It's like, if I can't remember the rest of the hadith, but the main hadith says, if your slackening is towards my sunnah, meaning what? I mean, you don't miss prayers. You don't sort of, some people, it's called, have you heard the what the hell effect? Right? The what the hell effect is, let's say you're in a diet, right? And then you're in a really strict diet, you're doing great. Then one day you have pizza. All right, and a slice of pizza. Oh, what the hell? Khalas. I'm gonna have ice cream. I'm gonna have everything else, right?
Right.
So it's called moral licensing. The idea that sometimes we do one small thing bad and boom, this is what happens after Ramadan, right? Okay, we got kharbana, whatever happened. I've messed up anyway. You want to really catch yourself and get into that moment. Okay, I've messed up. Okay, I missed Fajr. Okay, I've fallen into this sin. Okay, I've fallen back. Let me get them back on track, right? And it's why the idea of reset.
Can I ask you this, though? Is there a keystone thing that can get you back on track? That one thing that affects everything else? I love it.
I would say that in decision to get up, make wudu, pray 2 rak'ahs, ask Allah for forgiveness, and say, Allah, I'm back. Like just like that's your turning point. You have to intentionally turn back. If you just flounder around and like you're kind of expecting, like you almost have to like, okay, I messed up. You know what? I know a bit. Bismillah. Make wudu, get up, pray 2 rak'ahs. Ya Allah, forgive me. I made a mistake. And I'm back. that just resets you, inshallah.
And you're saying 2 nawafil rak'ahs, sunnah rak'ahs, just
2 nawafil, or if you
do
want to go to the next prayer, but you just don't want to fall. The trick of shaitan is to say, oh man, you messed up, khalas. You can't go like, okay, enjoy it, take a week off, and then you'll get back into it, right? That's the trick of shaitan. You want to really be careful of that. It's like, no, I made a mistake, and I want to reduce the length between let's say, from falling back and getting back on my feet again. If it was before, it takes like a few months, try to get it to a few weeks, or a few days. Eventually, shall be just one prayer. You messed up one prayer, the next prayer, I'm back. Right? There's that famous Sahabi, the famous incident where Sahabi, he went to Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, I kissed a woman, basically, right? So he's like, I didn't do jima', but I kissed a woman. And after Muhammad reprimanded him, he said, did you pray with us, jama'ah? He goes, yes. He goes, khalas. You've almost like you've reset yourself. Now, don't go back there again. He didn't say, oh, okay, next, few days you can't come close to us. He told him, all right, you praying jama'ah, that's resetting yourself. That's resetting yourself. That's another thing that we need to, this idea of being conscious and really turning to Allah Ta'ala and asking Allah for forgiveness and recognize a mistake and not letting a sin or a fallback or even getting off a track, especially if you're a high performer, not letting those moments of slackening become the sort of the downfall, so to speak.
When you mentioned earlier continuity and consistency, I believe in your book you called these one of the 3 or 2 manifestations of barakah. What is barakah in the first place? How do you define barakah?
So I went around asking a lot of scholars and going through books explaining barakah. But I think the one that I came down to is barakah is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's from Allah. It's not from somebody. It's not from a place. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that gift, that divine gift, enters into things that are tangible and intangible. Could be entered into places like Mecca, Medina. Could be entered into people. Could be entered into objects. Enter into projects, into podcasts. Allah can enter His barakah gift into anything, tangible, intangible. Your sleep, your time. And then when this gift enters into something, there's this called Barakah Effect, right? There's this idea called more with less. So sometimes let's say enters in your time, so you can do more with your time. Enters into this podcast, inshallah, it reaches and impacts people. Enters your sleep, you sleep little but wake up feeling refreshed. Enters your wealth stretches for a long time. Enters your children are amazing and supportive of you. Enters into your career, you seem to be growing your career. Your marriage, there's a love and happiness in your marriage. So you can enter into anything. And when it enters, this Barakah Effect happens. Now, here's where it's important. When this thing happens, it's not just that's where it stops. It's this feeling of barakah, this feeling of realizes from this gift from Allah Ta'ala makes you want to go back to Allah Ta'ala, makes you grateful to Him. Because people think of barakah as blessing. I'm like, well, Fir'aun had blessings, right? Fir'aun had lots of money, wealth, and power. Was that barakah? No, that turned him away from Allah Ta'ala. So barakah, yes, it's a gift that enters into something. Yes, it has this beautiful thing, but the most important quality of barakah is that it makes you return to Him, makes you grateful to Him, makes you realize, oh wow, subhanAllah, this is not from me. When you see your wealth increasing, when you see inshallah this podcast show exploding, when you see, he's like, this is from Allah. Like the way this is spreading, the way this is working, the way when you sleep little but you feel refreshed, when you get so much in 3 hours, which you thought it would take you 3 days, you just notice that like this is a gift that makes you aware of Him, makes you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and makes you grateful to Him.
Yeah. And one of the beautiful things that you mentioned in your book is that when you constrict your schedule for Allah, Allah in return expands your hours, expands your schedule back for you. So if you're taking 2, 3 hours, 4 hours out of your day that you originally were thinking in the hustle mindset that you're talking about, man, I need this to work. If you instead take that to Allah, Allah puts barakah or expands those hours that you are actually working.
Absolutely. So I call this idea of aligning yourself. So again, if you want to get a gift from somebody, I got to align with that person, right? So I'm aligning myself with how Allah subhanahu wants me to live my life. And that's why I talk about mindsets, values, and rituals. Not just the ritual, but even the mindsets, how I think about things. Let's talk about hustle culture versus barakah culture. So I'm aligning myself to how Allah wants me to live my life. I'm scheduling my time around salah time. I'm aligning myself with, basically how to be as a abd of Allah, a slave of God. Once I'm aligned, I'm more likely to receive those gifts. Again, of course, I'm not saying I'll, definitely receive those gifts, but I'm more likely to receive those gifts because I'm trying to organize my time, my energy, my focus for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do my work, I'm with my family, I'm involved with things, but I'm just trying to get that alignment right all the time. And this is where the connection to the barakah with productivity, because productivity is all about managing energy, focus, and time. But to get barakah from being productive, it has to be to align yourself with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Versus a lot of time productivity is tend to take it to just to get things done and, the hustle culture mindset, like get things done and get results and work. And spirituality, religion, all that stuff is something you do on the side. And it's whenever you have time to do it. Kind of squeeze those in when you get time. But if you want barakah in your life, you got to align yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He wants you to live.
Yeah, and you kind of basically called it in the book, slave of God mode. Get into that slave of God mindset, slave of God mode. Can you explain to us what you mean by that?
So the idea, again, we all know this verse that, the purpose of life is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. We kind of know intellectually, but I was trying to do in the books challenge people, say, well, can we think about it deeply? Like, to really embody the idea, I'm a slave of God. Now, I'm using the word slave intentionally. People don't like the word slave, and I understand the negative connotation, especially here in America. But the word uses abd in the Quran. He didn't use khadim. Khadim is servant. We use abd. Abd is slave. And a slave is owned by the master. And the slave does what the master wants, right? There's no two way around. If it's a servant, like, if I want to, I'll work. If I want to take a break. But the abd means I'm owned by him. And I am literally, from the moment I wake up till the moment I sleep, what does my master want? And I think that mode, once you're in that mode, and you are not slave to a person, or slave to money, or slave to wealth. One thing I mentioned in the book, if you're not a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll be a slave to something else. Right? Whether it's your work, whether it's your career, whether it's your hobbies, you'll be a slave to something else. But when you're abd of Allah, that's the highest, most honorable thing to be.
That's the highest form of freedom.
That's the highest form of freedom. The highest, most honorable position is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sort of described His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanallah asra bi abdihi laylan. Talked about Muhammad sallallahu in the Isra Mi'raj. He referred to him as his abd. So this is a really honorable position. So I'm a abdullah. I'm a slave of God, and be proud of that. But that comes with implications. That means every decision, every thought, every action, my schedule, my calendar. Is it really abd of Allah mode? Is it aligned, or is it actually no? It's my thing, how I design my own life. And I think we get very uncomfortable about that, because that means most of us we tend to have this egotistical approach to life, like it's about me, myself, and I, and how I want things to happen. And if it's spirituality, faith is convenient, I'll align. If it's not convenient, if I get meditative effects of salah, I'll pray salah. If I don't feel meditative effects, I'm not going to pray. If I get health benefits of fasting, I'll fast. If I don't get health benefits, I'm not going to fast. Versus abd of Allah. What does Allah want from me? Whether I feel like it, whether I don't feel like it. I'm an abd of Allah. And I think that mode can be, like I said, the highest form of freedom, and attracts barakah in your life for sure.
Yeah. And this understanding that you brought, the slave of God mode understanding, allowed me to better understand a quote where a wise man or a fool wakes up in the morning and says, what am I going to do today? And a wise man wakes up in the morning and says, what is Allah going to do with me today? And that's exactly it. Like, what will my master do with me today?
And what does Allah want from me today?
Yeah.
Right? So imagine I wake up in the morning, okay, I know about Fajr, of course, the 5 daily prayers. All right, that's already in my schedule. I'm there. But then let's say I'm faced decisions, right, at work and family and career and, and then parents and, there's all these different responsibilities you have. And you're thinking about those responsibilities, you think about those decisions, you think about those situations from a abd of Allah mindset. It's like you're wearing a special, I call it worldview, special goggles on, barakah goggles on. You're like, all right, how would I do? And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Just like with the AlBaik story, like, wait a second, what do you mean giving charity when you're losing money? What do you mean? Sometimes the abd of Allah mode, what do you mean go take a break and pray when you have an important meeting with an investor, right? But as abd of Allah, it makes perfect sense.
Because you have that abundancy mindset rather than
scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And you know that you are dealing with the one who controls everything, right? And who owns everything. So it's like, I'm not losing out. It might, in the dunya calculations, in the myopic worldview, the hustle culture, it might, oh my God, you're losing out. Versus in an akhirah mindset, in a barakah mindset, no, it's like Allah wasi'un alim. That's why the verse is ash-shaytanu ya'idukum al-faqr wa ya'murukum bil-fahsha. Like shaitan promises you poverty, right? He always makes you scared. Oh my God, you're gonna lose your job. Oh my God, you're gonna lose your business. What do you mean? Take time out to pray. What do you mean take time out to take care of your parents? What do you mean take time out to, do these things that are what Allah wants you to do? And Allah says, Wallahu ya'idukum maghfiratan minhu wa fadla. Allah promises you maghfirah and fadl. Wallahu wasi'un alim. Allah is wasi'. So his abundance. So it's almost like it really calms you down, and you realize, I'm not going to lose out. I'm not going to, there's no way I can lose out of this. And when you deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you won't lose out, inshallah.
I've teamed up with Pomeroy, a full-service marketing agency founded by a Muslim businessman with over 20 years of experience. Whether you're building your business, improving your brand, or running a nonprofit, Pomeroy will help you improve your revenue, increase your return on investment. Visit pomeroy.com/Ansari and get a free consultation today, or just mention the podcast and you'll get a free consultation. At the Ansari podcast, one of our closest partnerships is Muslim Professionals. That's because they're a free community connecting thousands of Muslims across the United States, working at places like Google, Apple, and Spotify. Their vision is to connect the Muslim world, whether that's help finding a new job, exchanging business ideas, forming partnerships, or just making new friends. Sign up at muslimprofessionals.us for free. Let's grow together, win together. Can you tell us briefly what the abundancy mindset is versus the scarcity mindset?
Yeah. So the abundance mindset is recognizing that as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider and the sustainer and the creator of the heavens and the earth, He, when you attach yourself to Him, he's abundant. He can give, right? There's nothing, won't reduce from his perspective. Now, from your perspective, if I have an abundance mindset, I'll give charity. Because from a scarcity mindset, you might say, if I have $100, if I give $10 in charity, I have 90 left. I'm losing money. That's a scarcity mindset. Abundance mindset, no, I have $100, I give 10, 20, 30. I'm not losing that. A, that is staying with me forever for akhirah. And B, Allah will put barakah in the remaining $40, $50 I have, and inshallah will stretch wider. That's you know that you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's much more abundant. Sometimes the ideas, also people say, I have this idea, but I don't want to share with anybody. I'm like, again, you have a scarcity mindset. I'm like, in fact, something you share.
Gatekeeping culture.
Seriously.
Mindset,
yeah.
huh?
No, you got to sign this NDA before sharing. I'm like, just share, right? Share that knowledge, right? Share that, sometimes people have this, like share. And you'll be amazed how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, opens new perspectives, new ideas, right? New thoughts we've never thought of before because of an abundance mindset. We have, of course, in our culture, the Barakah culture in the souk, right? When you enter a souk, until today, it's not something we hear about this story.
Souk is a market.
In a market, yeah. And you go to a market and if you go to a shop and you buy from a shop, it goes, don't buy from me, buy from my brother because, he didn't have any business today. That happens till today. It's not like, some old bag. If you go to old souks in Fez, Morocco, in Istanbul, some parts of Cairo, there are some souks that are available. That culture's there. The culture of there's enough for everybody. There's a story of a supermarket chain that was very successful in Mecca. And then somebody opened a supermarket right across the street. So the workers of the first supermarket were like, man, why did he open right across the street? Why did he go somewhere else? The owner of the supermarket was really upset with his workers. Like, what? Why are you thinking that they're going to take away a single, rial from us? He's like, go. In fact, all you take a day off and go help them set up. That's abundance mindset. Another example, another story I love abundance mindset is like there was two poultry companies which were like number one, number two, and they were competing. And the number two sort of poultry company was in debt. In fact, it was so much debt, it was about to shut down. Now imagine if this is corporate America, like, great, they're shutting down, let's take over, monopoly will be the number one poultry company in the country. Instead, the owner of this company sent a check to the owner of the second company, say, listen, pay off your debts, get back in the market. And he goes, whenever you're ready, you can pay me back. He goes, you don't have to lose business. You don't have to lose so that I can win. That's an abundance mindset. Again, it's very different from the hustle mindset, the cutthroat. You have to lose so that I can win. And I think this by itself, if we adopt abundance mindset in our businesses, and we treat others, treat our employees, treat our staff, team, just even business or in life, it can really open up the barakah in our life, inshallah.
Yeah. It reminds me of that hadith of the Jewish rabbi who urinated himself when he confronted the Prophet ﷺ and Omar got up. One of the things that he mentioned at the end, though, is one of your signs in our Torah is that you will not fear poverty. And there's no one that has more barakah than the Prophet ﷺ. And I'm going to say something wild here. One of the things that triggered this wild thought of mine is that you said in the book, I'm paraphrasing here,
Mm.
that the Prophet ﷺ is one of the most beautiful, beautiful. Actually, I wrote it down. Let me say it instead how you said it, or how I think you said it.
Mhm.
The Prophet Muhammad's life, ﷺ, is the greatest thought up story in history.
I'm trying to understand the context. I believe what I mentioned is, especially in the last chapter, the Barakah of Prophet Muhammad, that he had barakah in his life, barakah in his seerah. When you look at his seerah, you must say, where's the barakah? He's born an orphan. His mother dies when he's 6 years old. He's poor. He lives as a shepherd. I mean, you might think, where's the barakah, right? He's persecuted for 13 years. He dies with very little in his home. If we understand barakah the way we understand barakah, the materialistic growth increase, we might think, where's the barakah? But we look at the seerah of Sallam and it's like full of barakah, right? The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of him. We also had to change history, the way that we love him and follow him and mention him till today. I mean, the barakah of the Prophet Sallam is incredible. So I feel like maybe if you look at the seerah from a purely biographic perspective, like, oh my God, this man had a tough life. You know, where's the Barakah effect in all of this? But then you see the life he led and the impact he had and just so much there, and you think, subhanAllah, there's so much barakah in his life.
Yeah, 1400 years later, 2 billion people say your name every day, multiple times a day, and remember you and follow you in every way.
That's it.
That's almost impossible, right?
That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah, but I will say that I believe that's true, and check me if you guys think it's not true, but that the Prophet ﷺ's story, his life story, is the greatest story ever told. And one thing, I'm huge on anime. I love anime, but I'm not like weird about it. Right? I'm not like one of those weird guys, you know. But I love One Piece, right? And one of the reasons why I love One Piece is that Luffy, the main character, has a lot of like. Yeah, Raheem's looking at me like, oh God, I can't believe he's saying this.
He's
I'm saying, man, I've been holding this back for 100 and something episodes. How many episodes have I done? And he's like, don't say anime today. Every day I have to be reminded not to say anime before the episode. But anyways,
Go for it.
I love Luffy's character, right? He's like one of the coolest characters ever. He's the coolest character written by a human being, in my perspective, ever, right? And one of the reasons is because he has that like abundancy mindset thing that you're talking about. But one of the things that it comes with and that I can't wrap my mind around, that is demanded of the Prophet ﷺ, is demanded of us, is this optimism, this almost maddening optimism. Because I think the main thing that stops you from barakah, in my opinion, when I was reflecting on your book, is positivity, optimism, and tawakkul in Allah, which kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, you said it. It's tawakkul. There's an equation in the book that I share that I think helps people with that specifically, called the Gardener Mindset. And I think that's the mindset gives you positivity, because the equation goes like this. To achieve anything in life, you need three things. You need intention, right? Or decision, or willpower. Some say, I'm going to do this, right? So an intention, a willpower, decision. You need to take the natural means, right? So you want to make this podcast, you got to get the equipment, got to gear, get great videographer, get the whole team together. You need to take the natural means. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to take the natural means. And you also need Allah's permission, because nothing happens without Allah's permission. All right. So with intention, all right, I got to set the intention and make a decision, purify my intention, it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With natural means, I take the means, I learn, I compare, I look up, I study, I figure out how things do it done. With Allah's permission, what's that? That's when you ask, that's the istikhara prayer, that's the dua, that's what Allah gives tawfiq, say conscious bismillah, like all the things you do to kind of bring the barakah effect. Now, here's the best part. The outcome is not up to you. In fact, if it's good, alhamdulillah, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's not good, alhamdulillah, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I need to learn, how can I improve? Let's say I failed. Let's say, it failed. Okay, let me go back. Maybe I need to improve my intention. Maybe I need to improve the way I did things. Maybe I need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more sincerely. But it's a continuous cycle. And why I find this very optimistic, why I find this very sort of encouraging, is because when we realize that nothing happens with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission, we realize, well, anything is possible, because Allah can do anything. And we realize it's not about the outcome, we detach from results. A lot of times we feel unoptimistic or feel we struggle with something is because we attach to results. We have this image of success, a fixed image of success. Again, we become worshippers of that image of success. If we don't achieve that, we feel like we're a failure. That's the hustle mindset. Willpower, hard work, and results, right? A lot of hustle culture. Willpower, hard work, results. Barakah culture is willpower, hard work, dua, tawakkul, istikhara, and detachment results. It's not up to you. Now, back to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he's going through his life, he's going through his seerah, and yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him visions of what the possibility would be, how the future would be. But in the end, it's like, his companions are tortured. He's struggling. He's in a battlefield, right? And he's almost like he's detached from the outcome because I'll do my best, right? His mission was to save humanity. Think about it. If I were to give you a product and say, all right, Mahmoud, I want you to market this product globally. Every person in the world knows this product. People think, oh my God, where do I start? Right? I need to go right, go left. Which conferences? The Prophet he's the last final messenger to mankind. There's no more messenger after him. And he is the responsible to pass on this message. What does he do? Right? He doesn't sort of go around the globe and he builds his community, builds his sahaba, makes his dua, does his best, and leaves the outcome to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then by the time he gets to his end of his life, Allah hal balaght, wallah, have I delivered the message? Allahumma fashhad, wallah, be my witness. And after that, Islam spreads and reaches everywhere. I mean, think about the mindset there, the positivity mindset, the abundance mindset. He could have panicked. Like, how am I supposed to do this? And that's why the famous story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was asked, call people to Hajj. He goes, Ya Allah, I'm in the middle of the desert. How do you mean call people to Hajj? He goes, you get on the mountain, you make the call, and Allah says, I'll take care of the delivery. But you got to put in the effort in. So intention, hard work, hustle of permission, detachment results. If you do that, that's like a gardener mindset. It's not the carpenter mindset. Carpenter is like, I'm going to build this table. It has to look exactly what I have in mind. And if it's not, I get upset. A gardener goes, I can't guarantee the fruits. It might grow, it might not grow. It's a whole different ballgame. Wallah.
So, assuming that we did lose much of this Barakah Effect culture in the Muslim world, and I believe we did. I think we lost it overall as humanity because even when you look at how Hollywood portrays the British and the Pilgrims when they were first here, they used to make dua, and actually it was a very beautiful dua, even though it was a Christian dua, before every ship would leave. Every ship would set sail and come back, right? Even the West used to pray every day, multiple times a day. They would pray before they ate. Actually, Muslims even lost that sunnah of praying before they eat. So just the overall rituals of humanity have decreased, and therefore, objectively, the barakah has decreased as well. How did we lose that barakah?
Yeah, there's a micro perspective and a macro perspective, and on an individual level, like we said, most of us have detached ourselves with this idea of I'm an abd of Allah, I'm a slave of God, and it's about me, myself, and I, and we build our lives around that. Right? Think about what's our biggest dream, most of us. Alhamdulillah, get a job, get a house, get married, maybe go to Hajj towards the end of our life. Versus really being aware, I'm an abd of Allah. The moment I wake up, I sleep, I go to school, college, I'm always conscious of that identity. Right? We lost our identity. We kind of lost that sense of who are we? Who are you? So that's one on an individual level. And on a social level, right? There's a lot of things on a macro level. I will say there's 5 pillars of hustle culture. There is individualism, and not the healthy kind, but the extreme individualism, right? Especially now in modern day, where you can actually cater for your personal needs how you want. You go for a coffee shop and you want extra frappe with oat milk, and everyone's tailoring themselves. Everyone's trying to serve their nafs, serve their ego. There's extreme individuality, right? Very extreme individuality. One of the things that sometimes hurts me, you go to Mecca and Umrah, see a lot of people, they go around the Kaaba doing selfies the whole way. I'm like, come on, this is a moment for you to be kind of immersed to the crowd versus kind of filming yourself doing Umrah. Again, I don't want to put people on the spot, but I feel like that's something's lost there, right? This idea of look at me, the selfie culture, it's about myself, I. It's interesting. I was doing some research on Salah, and it's interesting when you do sujood or when you're in prayer, there's a part of your brain that is about you, the one that's the sense of self, it decreases. It's almost like you immerse yourself, right? You become less about yourself and you become connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So there's something about, even Salah teaches us the idea, like, it's not about you. It's not about you. So that's one, individualism. Second one, again, capitalism and consumerism, right? The idea, the way the system is set up. People think, Hamid, I want to experience Barakah culture, but I got bills to pay. I got a mortgage, I got a house, I got kids need to go to school, and I feel like trapped. I don't want to be part of hustle culture, but I feel trapped. What do I do? You tell, how do I achieve barakah if I'm stuck in this rat race? And I feel like we've kind of created these sort of almost like the golden handcuffs or the traps. So it's so hard to exit it. It feels like, and almost like, again, this entire system is set up. Yeah, if you compare your own life to your, let's say, grandparents' life, and you see how we've set up this whole kind of, you got the house, you got this, you got that, and now you have to be part of hustle culture. If you're not part of hustle culture, you literally won't survive. You struggle, right? That's in those two. And then another one's fear of death. That's a big one.
There's so many nonprofits out there all promising the same thing, and we never know which one to actually trust, which one will actually invest our money into the future of the communities that they serve. That's why I've partnered with Human Appeal USA, because they don't just react to emergencies, they invest in their communities. They don't just give to the orphan and the poor, they invest in their education, their healthcare, and their future. Not just short-term reaction, but long-term investment. Donate at give.humanappealusa.org/Ansari podcast, where you can give to humanity and give to the ummah. Hey Salam guys, we're trying to build more studios, hire more people, and create more shows that you guys will love and enjoy. If you guys want to invest in us, then go on patreon.com/Ansari podcast and support us today. I like what you called it, the golden handcuffs, because this is exactly what's happening. I mean, all of us, at least personally, I feel it. I feel stuck and imprisoned in the consumerism. How do you break out of that? How do you get out of those golden handcuffs?
That's a great question. I think, again, it's one of those things where you almost have to make a decision. Who am I? And this is also, it's not even your own personal decision, it's almost like a family decision. Your spouse, your kids, all be like, hey, who are we as a family? What's important to us? And what sacrifices are we willing to make, right? Sometimes it's not easy to make those sacrifices. Sometimes it's not even possible. But sometimes it is possible. I think sometimes we kind of fall into the idea of, I call the idea of ads, right? The idea of like saying, I can't do anything about it. There's nothing I can do about it. We're saying, okay, is there something I can do? Even show Allah that the intention, I have the intention to not be trapped in this. I have the intention to, whether, again, I'm not advising people to quit their job today and khalas, Barakah culture, quit their job. But being intentional, there's something off here about my life that's not aligned with how Allah wants me to live my life. I had one person attend we do retreats once in a while, and she was saying, I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to attend a conference call, but I cannot wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to pray Fajr, right? It's, again, hustle culture consumed you so much that it becomes like, she said, I almost feel like I sold my soul to the hustle culture environment.
So do you think 9-to-5s are anti, living a Muslim lifestyle?
That's, again, sometimes generalizations, blanket statements, yes, it is, where it becomes like a clickbait. It depends, right? Depends, what are you doing? What are you working on? How are you able to align that life with your responsibility as Abd of Allah? Again, I'm not saying work is bad. People think, work, Barakah culture is about barakah, it's okay, relax, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you. No, I'll say Barakah culture is hard work. But it is always being conscious, how can I design my work is part of my life versus my work is my life. That's why there's an idea called workism. It's the idea we've made work a new religion, right? We sell our values, our mindsets, our rituals are aligned, we're attached to work. Some people, if you take away their work, it's like they lose their identity. They don't know who they are anymore. They don't know who am I? You forget you're Abd of Allah, first and foremost. Yes, work. Yes, earn halal income. But when that becomes your obsession, where it becomes, this is the only way that I can live, this is the only way that I can survive this world, and there's no other way. Sometimes we kind of put ourselves into the trap. Now, also depends where you are. And sometimes that's why I'm very conscious not saying general statements. But I can give you different models. Model A, you have a 9-to-5, but you're able to, within the 9-to-5, to be aligned with Barakah culture by aligning with the prayer times, the values, the mindsets, how you behave, how you act at work. You are able to align with Barakah culture, the mindsets, how you discuss in team meetings, how you deal with projects, how you tackle things. You're able to. That's one model. Another person, they just can't fit. They're not able to. Even it's a very toxic culture. In fact, they know that they're almost losing their iman as a result of being that toxic culture. That's what they have to think. Can I switch teams, switch companies, switch something? But this is just not aligned. Versus, oh, well, what to do? I've got bills to pay. There's nothing I can do about it. And then for others people, if they're able to, and they sort of quote unquote brave, is when you think, actually, you know what? I got to have that self-sufficiency, that independence. I actually recommend people, even if you have a 9 to 5, have a side hustle. Have something on the side. Because there's something about being able to earn your own living without being dependent on a paycheck that gives you the dignity and gives the ability, no thanks. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna lower myself and humiliate myself for the sake of hustle culture and work. I know my values. So I feel like sometimes I recommend people, even if you have a 9 to 5, even if I know you have something on the side, learn a skill, right? Learn whether it's, I don't know, writing a book, podcast, AI, whatever you want to do, is learn something. Have this idea of trade, right? They say 9/10 of rizq is in trade. Learn the idea of buying and selling, product or service. That can be very powerful for sure.
And I like that you said that at the end, because I was about to say that the Prophet ﷺ said that one of the most, the best of the best of employment to have is to be a businessman, right? Trade. What's the hadith?
It's 9/10 19 رزق في التجارة. 9/10 of rizq is in tijara, in trade. But again, I think sometimes we have to remember this idea of corporations and career ladders. It's a very modern thing. If you look at, for example, compare yourself to our grandparents or great grandparents, most were either in some kind of a service, right? Where they offer you a service, or they have sort of a craft or skill or a sort of work that they were doing that they're earning a living from it. And most are earning it with their hands. Nowadays, most of us, we kind of earn with our brain. We sit, we think, we use our hands in typing. And this idea of corporations, career ladders, and of course all the different career games and the corporate culture stuff, and you do this thing, get bonus points, you get promoted, and all the envy and the politicking and the entire culture we've created around that, almost like that maze we've created. And no one's stepping back saying, wait a second, do I really want to be part of this? Is this Allah me abd of Allah? And sometimes it's about questioning that, right? And I know this might sound, make you feel very uncomfortable. I hear some people, Muhammad, yes, I know what you're saying, I know what you're trying to say, but I feel stuck. I'm like, I understand. Again, we all have responsibilities. But even if you just, again, back to the equation, set your intention. Take the means, learn a trade, look at different options for career, develop a skill, ask Allah for support, and leave the outcome, right? Don't feel, I got to quit my job today. Sometimes just by setting intentions, He will show you a way. He will show you beyond expectations. But at least have that intention of saying, you know what, this current hustle culture, golden handcuffs trap is just not helping me.
And I think one of the best ways to get away from that is to find your purpose and passion and meaning in life. How do you find your destiny and what you're created for through the Barakah Effect?
There's a beautiful hadith says, "اعملوا فكلكم يسر ما خلق له." Like, work, all will be made easy what you've been created for, right? And I will say that I'm not a big fan of like visions and 5-year plans and 10-year plans. I feel like, those are, you don't know what the future holds.
I agree with you about 5-year plans and 10-year plans, but I disagree about vision. Vision is very important.
So instead of vision, use intention, the why, right? Why do I say that? Again, you want to detach from the outcome. If I have a vision in mind, what is that? That is an image of success that I'm essentially worshiping. And I'm saying I'm working towards that. Versus what's the intention? I'll give you an example.
Interesting.
So the idea of vision is almost like, imagine, again, I don't know if you want to use like parallel universes here, but the idea is like, you might have multiple ways. Also, that has written multiple ways for you to be successful, achieve certain things. But you attach one thing. This is how I'm going to do this. This is how I want to be successful. But there might be other ways. So which is better? The one you choose, the one Allah chooses for you. So when Allah chooses for you. So what does that mean? It means, what's the intention? If it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He'll guide you. I will say to people, I never had a vision of writing books or a vision of starting a product Muslim company. I will follow the breadcrumbs. I woke up in the morning, I started blogging. Next thing I know, people started following me on Facebook and I get invited to workshops. Okay, I guess I'm doing workshops now. I started doing workshops. After a while, I meet my publisher in a conference. He goes, oh yeah, same book proposal. Next thing I got a book come out. Next thing it was like, I'll go follow the breadcrumbs. It was not like some vision I had in 20 years ago that this is what I want to be in 20 years time, right? It's more about what's the why. And that why is something helpful because sometimes we lose track when I'm off track, when I'm struggling, when I'm thinking, what's the point of all this? I just give up on this. What's the niyyah? The niyyah kind of brings you back.
Intention.
What's the intention?
So how does one create a high form intention?
Called a high himma intention. So high himma intention is God-centered. So again, back to the idea of instead of what's in it for me, to what does Allah want from me? That's called the high himma intention. So I know a lot of we groomed to think of what's in it for me. I used to have a debate with my economics teacher because he used to say there's no such thing as free lunch. I'm like, yes, there is. Because I would believe you could do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Not just for yourself. But in a very sort of secular mindset, the idea, why you do things not for yourself? You always do things for yourself. Going from what's in it for me to what does Allah want from me, right? That's number one. Number two is akhirah focused. How will this impact me in the akhirah? And again, sometimes we forget that we're here for 30, 40, 60, 100 years. And then eternity, right? So do I really want to spend a lot of time trying to build something here just for this world, or want to build something that actually will help me in the akhirah? So akhirah focused. Third, back to your point about align to your skills, align to what you've been created for. Now, how do you know that? Back to your question is, let me try, I'm experiment. Again, I never knew I could write books. I never knew I could do workshops. But sometimes you stumble upon things, you try things. Oh, actually, I'm not good. Perhaps for your podcast, you started 1 or 2, subhanAllah, you see barakah, you see ease. When you find yourself, sometimes, for some people, doing a podcast, oh my God, I'm not going to do a podcast, too much work. For some else, I love doing podcasts. Someone else writing a book, forget it, not writing books. Others, I love writing books. So everyone has something that's been created for, what they may find easy. But you've got to experiment, you've got to try a few things. So God-centered, akhirah focused, align with the skills that Allah has given you, sort of has social impact. So it has impact beyond yourself. Again, not just me, myself, and I. Again, what I get for it. But this actually benefits others. That's what we call high himma intention. An intention that becomes almost like the life purpose that everything else revolves around. And that includes where do you live, how do you earn money, where do you work, how you, everything around that life purpose drives you. That life purpose becomes a thing that becomes, the high himma intention becomes, again, your compass throughout your life.
And you're saying that intention is universal for every Muslim, which is to be the closest you can to Allah on the Day of Judgment.
To be, basically, to be abd of Allah.
Jannah.
Yeah, exactly. To be God-centered, akhirah-focused, purpose impact-driven, social impact, aligning with your skills. And it's just, it unshackles us sometimes from these images of success that we set for ourselves, right? So what's my niyyah? What's my niyyah? It's a question I ask also people. Don't have a to-do list. Have an intentions list. We also have a to-do list. What's the intention for today? What's my intention for this week? What's my intention for this quarter, for my life? What's my niyyah? And it's such a centering question that actually helps you live a life of barakah. Because then you make decisions based on intention versus based on, again, a fixed image of success.
Interesting, because I have a to-do list and I try to hit that to-do list every day.
So it's fine to have it, but I'm not saying it's not instead of to-do list. Let me clarify this.
No, I like what you said.
You drive yourself with intention. And there's a difference. For example, okay, I have this podcast. Right? It could be a to-do list. Do a podcast with, Mahmoud. Great. Well, what's the intention? Inshallah, spread beneficial knowledge. Inshallah, something we say here helps people. To deliver with ihsan. To share abundant mindset, not to have scarcity mindset. So it even changes the way you approach something, a task. Instead of, done, podcast done, versus the niyyah. There's a beautiful term in the Arabic world, niyyah matiyah. And niyyah is like your ride. The niyyah gets you places you can't imagine getting to. So just set your intention, and you'll see the barakah. Allah says, my grandfather, Allah yarhamu, whenever I would go, Jeddah, I did achieve this goal, something like this. I got this award or something. He wouldn't say, well done. He'll say, niyat tayyiba. You have good intention. That's it. Reminds you back to intention. He doesn't say good effort, good work. Niyat tayyiba. Just remind you, have that, keep on that, work on that part. The rest will come. But if you work on that intention, it's very important.
SubhanAllah. So he tells you good intention, right? Like rather than good
Good job.
job. SubhanAllah.
Right? Back to the why. Back to the why.
So what do you think a person's relationship should be with their schedule?
So I like to call my calendar my intentions map. Because when I say every week, I have this thing. Every Saturday morning, I go to a coffee shop and I spend 2 hours, and I call it my Gylio day. Gylio means get your life in order. Gylio. And I spend a couple of hours literally looking at what's coming ahead, the previous week, sort of what are my intentions for the coming week, and just like really setting the intentions. And I look at my calendar, it's more like this is almost like, oh Allah, this is how I want to live my life for the next week. Oh Allah, if it's good for me, allow it to happen. If it's not good for me, show what's better. And you end up having this kind of healthy relationship calendar. If your schedule changes, not panicky. A lot of people have this like death by the calendar. Oh my God, it's 3 o'clock. I can't believe I gotta be. Versus, I have much more. You have this kind of healthy relationship with time. And I have another article people find controversial called "The Tyranny of the Mechanical Clock," and how again one of hustle culture's greatest tools or weapons is tying us down to the mechanical clock versus the real time, which is the times of Salah and the times of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's time. And I talk about this idea that we need to have this kind of health relationship. I'm not saying, oh yeah, you're telling Muslims should be late, right, all the time. No, I'm saying there's a difference between I make a promise, like I'll be at 3 o'clock, or I have a flight to catch, and designing our life into like these little time blocks. Oh, from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., I'll do this. 7 a.m. to 8. No, I'm designing my life. Yes, I'm setting intentions. I'm expecting how long things will take. But if things work out according to plan, alhamdulillah. If things work out not according to plan, alhamdulillah. What can I learn from that? How can I rearrange things? And I have this much more healthy relationship with time. The way this got hit me most was I was one day working and I was deep in this kind of flow state. I had scheduled work on an article. And then at that time, my 2-year-old kind of walked into the room. I'm like, right, I'm just trying to get this thing done, right? And again, because I have this time, got to finish this according to this time. Then I reflected later, I'm thinking, how long will it be till my 2-year-old stops coming to my office? Because they grow old and they already like if they say salam alaikum alhamdulillah, right? The idea like how long would it be? Like, and you have to almost have this kind of like being able to again detach versus being so attached to a schedule, so attached to a calendar that nothing is. So yes, have a plan, have a calendar, have a schedule, but use that as your intention. Well, that's how I'm planning to be your best abd for next week. Now, the good thing about this is if you drop dead, you get rewarded for that intention, right? You say, well, this is how I actually put my calendar. I plan to pray the 5 daily prayers. I plan to Quran this time. I plan to visit this sick person here. I plan to attend this funeral. I plan to call my parents. I plan to, do these good deeds. I plan to do this work. I plan to go to the gym here. This is my intention for next week. And this is, spiritually, physically, socially, as much as this is the best I can do. Oh Allah, if it's khair, let me live by it. If it's not khair, help me get better. If I drop dead, accept this from me as a contribution.
It's beautiful that you're mentioning even personal life with barakah, because how does the barakah effect apply to family, spouse, mother, father, siblings, children?
Yes. So the good thing is that again, when you center yourself around the idea of barakah, it grounds you. And again, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes, and we all sometimes, we could do better in different relationships. But it's almost like asking myself, okay, what is the barakah way of dealing with the situation, right? For example, a lot of times there's a chapter here that triggered a lot of people. This chapter of parents, how to serve your parents with ihsan. For some people, it's a trigger point. Again, hustle culture, the way it's very individualistic, is about, oh, my parents didn't do this to me, or I have toxic parents, and so on and so forth. Versus we know that there's barakah in serving parents. Yeah, but you don't know my parents are, you don't know how they deal with me. I'm like, I understand. But this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word birr al-walidain, right? And the interesting word in Arabic, wal birr. If I have birr towards you, which means, a person who, there's some people, if you do good to them, they do good to you, right? And there's some people, if you do bad to them, they still do good to you. That's called birr. That's called birr. The idea of when even somebody, the relationship we have with our parents, not a relationship of adl, of justice. You did this to me, I'm going to do this to you. Relationship is the idea of birr. Birr is you do your best, and sometimes we get challenged, we get tested by our parents. And birr is, okay, I'm still going to do good. Now, obviously, Allah subhanahu knows the effort, knows the He knows the parents' personalities. There are some people who have amazing parents. It's so easy to do bir with them. And some people have very, very, very challenging parents. In fact, sometimes psychologically traumatic, toxic parents. But even still doing bir to them. Do you think the reward is the same? No. The fact you're still trying to have bir, despite the person you're dealing with, Allah rewards you for that. So the idea of bir is a concept, again, that brings barakah. And I remember that was one of the chapters that even I had people, my early readers were like, Muhammad, take it off the book. It might, is it maybe just cultural that we have that bir walidain? I'm like, no, this as evidence, Quran and Sunnah, that there's barakah in being with your parents. Now, everyone, of course, has a personal context. I'm not here to give advice across different situations, but that's the goal of the barakah mindset, where it's not, again, the hustle culture mindset is like, again, individuality. Well, again, I have my haqq, my right, my way of think is about what's in it for me. I don't care. Allah wants you, no, it doesn't matter.
Do you think that, how about with, for example, getting married? Like, should you hijack the Barakah Effect in when you're choosing a spouse?
Yes, subhanAllah, I mean, the Prophet Muhammad taught us, he said, a woman gets married for 4 reasons, right?
You said a woman gets married for 4 reasons?
4 reasons. For jamaliha, for her beauty, for her lineage, for her wealth, and for her deen, right? There's 4 things that nobody gets married for. And his fadfar bidhat deen, then marry the one about the religion for deen, you'll be happy, like you'll have a good life. SubhanAllah. So he said, the Prophet started recognizing that we marry for a different purpose, right? Marry for beauty, marry for wealth, marry for because she's part of an important tribe, important sort of social circle. But he said, fadfar bidhat deen. And that's a barakah mindset. So if I had 2 choices, two people to get married to, one of them has his deen, akhlaq, and I think, if I marry this person, they'll help me live a barakah life. Or I marry this person who's, alhamdulillah, again, good person, but again, has a lot of the hustle culture mindset. They'll feel very uncomfortable if I make decisions that are barakah-based decisions. They'll feel like, oh no, yeah, you could do it, but that's, do that personally. It's not that important. And it's important to kind of think consciously of, okay, is this person going to help me live a life of barakah together? Because we're going to build a family together. You have children together. We're going to have, life decisions we're going to make together. And we start making things from a barakah perspective. It's much easier to make those decisions if you're both aligned. Again, I'm not going to get marriage counseling here, but that's just some thoughts there on being aware of the mindsets, the values that you are married. Not just sometimes we look at, alhamdulillah, again, of course, if you look at somehow you attract them, all that stuff, but mindsets and values are very important for sure.
Let me ask you this. Can non-Muslims experience barakah?
So I had that question. I asked a few scholars about this question and say the answer is yes. And that's why a lot of times, for example, the barakah of the early hours, right? If you talk to every productivity guru, will tell you, wake up early, there's something in the early hours. You don't know what it is, but something in the early hours makes you more productive. That's the barakah of the early hours. There's a hadith that says, Burika li ummati fi bukuriha. There's barakah ummah for the early hours. The barakah of sadaqah. Every financial advisor will tell you, give charity, right? From I'll teach you to be rich, to all this sort of gurus on financial advice. So you give charity. There's something about giving charity that actually leads to, leads more financial wealth. So the barakah of sadaqah, for example. So they can experience barakah. But the difference is, there's a way you experience something, but do you know the source, right? Do you know where that's coming from? Like we understand, again, when you say, that barakah comes from aligning with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because there are sunan kawniyya, there's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this universe and created like certain laws, including they're called barakah laws. You wake up early, you'll find barakah. You give sadaqah, you'll find barakah. You serve your parents, you'll find barakah. You have an abundance mindset, you'll see barakah. So there's certain sunan kawniyya. Now imagine being part of a faith. That's why I'm excited about, as Muslims, we need to spread this word to even non-Muslims, because we have the last divine message to mankind. People are stumbling into trying to figure this out. We have it right there. Okay, wake up. These are formulas to follow to experience barakah in your life. So yes, they can experience barakah, but it's about experiencing as non-Muslim, they get the source of that barakah. I once gave a talk at a conference. It was a large non-Muslim conference, and I talked about barakah, and most of them, they got it. In fact, the funny story, they said, one of them said, after the workshop, I gave them a homework. Say, hey, listen, as part of your experience barakah, take a meal that is enough for one person, let's say a sandwich or a small pizza, divide it by half and give it to somebody, right? Almost like share that with somebody, and you'll see barakah. Because we know the idea of if you share food, as Prophet Muhammad said, the food of two is enough for four, the food of one is enough for two, enough food for two, enough for four. So I got a message later saying, hey, I shared a sandwich and a bottle of wine. Does that count? I was like, oh, maybe not the wine part, hopefully the sandwich part. But that's the idea of, again, experiencing barakah there, inshallah.
Yeah. So how does one lose barakah when they fear death?
Yes, this idea of fear of death is very, very interesting, because if you think about most of the hustle culture, one of the biggest hustle culture mindsets is trying to live almost like we're here to live forever, right? And try to kind of, because after death, like we don't know what's after. They feel that we don't know what's after death. So you only live once, YOLO, right? You only live once. Make the most, of this life. It's okay. Don't worry about this whole, like, it's about just maximize utility, maximize pleasure, reduce pain as much as possible. And there's nothing beyond that. But as Muslims, you think, no, there's this kind of healthy relationship with death. That there's something I could do. There's something I'm part of. And it's beyond this life. So fear of death, sometimes this idea, it makes us more likely to have scarcity mindset. If I'm going to die, right? Think about it. If I know I'm going to lose, like, I'm not going to give. No, I'm not going to give charity. Like, I only have this much, right? But it's just, okay, if I give sadaqah, I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep it for me. That's a different mindset. The idea. So fear of death is one of the drivers of scarcity mindset. Versus when you embrace death, when you're aware of death, that's one of the drivers of abundance mindset. Also, fear of death is also one of the drivers of being ungrateful, right? Because you become so me, myself, and I, so selfish, versus, again, embracing death, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in the akhirah, knowing that something can forgive, right? That person who gave you a slight comment, you don't have to respond back. Khair, right? That idea of saying, fiha khair, in this, maybe I won't see the reward for this in this dunya, but I'll see in the akhirah. That is just a healthy way of approaching life versus being so caught up and saying, this is it. I win or lose in this game, basically.
It's interesting what you're saying, because I think, to sum up barakah from every example you've given, is long-term thinking.
That's it, yeah. And it's a very liberating idea. When you embrace death, when you're not, you almost like, it's like nothing bothers you. Really, it's like nothing bothers, to that extent, which is kind of scary sometimes. Like, okay, khair. Like, either I'm getting rewarded. That's why the Prophet said that عجب الأمر المؤمن. It's amazing the believer. If he's granted blessing, he's thankful. That's good for him. And if he's in a calamity, he has patience, and that's good for him. Like, and that's only for a believer, because you have this idea. Well, okay, this is a test. I'm going to go through tough times, easy times. Something will come out of this. Like, I'm not losing, and that's such a relief and such a beautiful blessing. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I'll read this part here that I really like, but we probably already touched on it. Where you talk about the fear of death in your book. You say, at the core of materialism, consumerism, capitalism, and individualism lies a fundamental driving force, the fear of death. When we feel that we have only one life to live, we try to pack it with as much tangible accomplishment and individual success as possible, hoping to avoid feeling empty at the end of our lives. I thought that was a beautiful thing you said there. The way I found out about you is through Adil, the owner and founder of Boycat, who says one of the things that he learned from your book is to sit still and allow the world to come to you. But at no point have you mentioned that in our conversation. Is this in the book? Is this a thing?
I think the idea, I guess, again, sometimes I love people how it's amazing how readers take the book and they have, mashallah, some incredible insights that I personally was like, wow, I never thought of that myself. So that was one of the insights I got. But the idea of not hustling, right? The idea of like, sometimes we get this idea, like, I gotta go, achieve, versus, sometimes slowing down. Like, I always recommend people have a slow salah. We all have this rush salah. Like, have a slow salah. Take your time, make wudu, go to the masjid, pray 2 rak'ahs, do a dua before Adhan al-Qamah, pray. After adhan, after salah, sit and do adhkar. Have a slow salah. Now, that sounds like, what are you doing? I don't have time for this, right? But try it, and you'll see the barakah in the rest of your day, right? So that's an example of sitting still or slowing down for the sake of Allah. That's why I will say it's not about, I just want to get into meditation mode, right? And mindfulness mode. And I'll say, I know I've not saying anything is meditation and mindfulness, but a lot of times with meditation mindfulness is we end up, it's about clearing your mind. But then what else? Once you clear your mind, other thoughts rush in. But in Islam, it's about clearing your mind and think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about the akhirah. Think about where you're heading. The contemplative tafakkur, tadabbur. Think about verses of the Quran. And I think something we don't allow ourselves enough time to sit still and think through. And if we let that time, again, think about abundance, all this concept, abundance mindset, being grateful, all the stuff we talk about requires moments of thinking, tafakkur, tadabbur. Where am I going? What am I doing? Is this aligned? Will it bring barakah? And sometimes because we're so busy, go, we don't have time to think through that. That's why perhaps maybe that's some insights he got from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an Islamic teaching. I'm not sure if it's a hadith, but where basically if a man, all he cares about is this worldly life and is chasing it, Allah will keep it basically like, like a hot dog on a treadmill, always in front of him, always seeking more. But if a man's focus is on Allah, then Allah will bring the world to his feet.
من أصبح وهمه الدنيا, where wakes up in his ham is dunya. Imagine you wake up and the first thing you thought, oh, let me see who messaged me.
Can you define ham is dunya?
Yeah, so the hadith is من أصبح وهمه الدنيا, where wakes up and his ham, his concern, his main, the big thing on his mind is this world.
He's anxious.
He's anxious is also the thing that's on his mind, like the thing that's the number one thing is dunya. Then there's one part of the hadith, Allah puts poverty in front of his eyes, meaning like you always see poverty. And subhanAllah, sometimes I'd work with like executives, people on the top of their career, earning a lot of money, and they read that hadith, goes, oh, that's me. I wake up in the morning, first thing I do, I check the Wall Street Journal. I'm always worried about the next deal. Like I'm so concerned. That's my main concern. And the hadith continues, Man asbaha wa hammu al-akhirah. Whoever wakes up in his ham, his concern, the thing is like, oh my God, what am I doing about this? His akhirah.
Afterlife.
The afterlife. That's the person who Allah will bring the dunya to his feet. Because, and that's why again, something you wake up, you don't check your phone. And this is a practical way of applying this hadith. Wake up, don't check your messages, don't check your phone. Make wudu, go pray, fajr, read some Quran, do your adhkar, contemplate, have those still moments, come back, set the intentions for the day. Set the intentions for what you're going to do today. Work on a few things that are important along your high himma intention, your high spiritual intention. And then check your phones. See the difference night and day for your day. Like it's a complete different experience versus get up, oh, check my phone, oh, I need to go pray quickly because I need to respond back to these messages quickly. And now you just, in that, you get hijacked. So this is another way of, practical way of experiencing barakah in those early hours.
Mm-hmm. One thing that happens to me a lot is burnout. How does burnout come into play in this entire conversation?
Okay. So burnout is a signaling from your nafs, from you, that part of you that says, I'm done, right? And it's almost like there's no resource, right? There's no almost like replenishment of energy. I think about the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Do you ever feel burnout? And we don't see that in the seerah. And I wonder why. Yes, we can say he's the prophet, was one, but there's one thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to do from day one, from the start of the message. And that is Qiyamul Layl. Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila. One of the first commandments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet Muhammad to get up and pray. We have a whole thing about the daily routine of Muhammad sallallahu in the book. And one of the things that really sort of, I say, when is his me time? Because the whole day is with his companions, with his family, he's busy with the community. His only me time is tahajjud. And that is when he's almost like replenishing his energy. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Seek help, seek aid, seek energy by sabr, patience, and salah. Salah is the second that gives you energy. So when it comes to burnout, it's like we don't replenish ourselves, replenish our souls, either spiritually, physically, and socially. So taking the time out for those things. Now, and this is where, again, when you do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes I work with charity organizations and they have volunteers and they have burnout volunteers. A lot of times it's about reminding them of the intention, about thinking about those rituals, the spiritual rituals, but also physical rituals like naps and sleep and eating healthy and exercise, and social rituals like just, again, taking time out to kind of like just, replenish your soul with called social energy, the team, the family, those are important. That's how to maintain a healthy barakah culture. But when we say no, forget all of that stuff, we're consuming, basically almost like burning through your soul because you're here just to serve and you're an economic agent. You're just a tool to serve and there's no replenishment of energy. Of course, you'll find burnout. So it's so important to kind of, again, attach yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, set the high himma intentions, have those rituals, especially salah, which is a huge way of source energy. And also not forgetting other parts of your life, your physical well-being, social well-being, inshallah.
I'm basically all the things that you've talked about when it comes to hustle culture and everything that you're saying, the lives that are lived. And I've been slowly trying to get myself into a more family-oriented Deen. I mean, obviously, Deen's always a part of my life, but there's a certain level that I'd like to get to that I'm not at right now, and it's bothering me. So a more Deen-oriented relative to my own life lifestyle. And it feels a little strange, right? It feels weird. I feel like I'm not doing as much. And I'm like, oh my God, like am I gonna get fired? Am I gonna lose what I'm doing? I've been doing this podcast for so long. Am I now gonna stop?
Mm.
You know, like if like the shaitan's coming to me right now and he's like, man, you've worked so hard on all of this. And now you're starting to spend more time with family. You're trying to start talking to Allah or praying more. And you're gonna fall off on what you're doing. You're giving up now.
I love that.
So what do you think's going on there?
So give it in Islam we sort of work-life balance. We have haqq balance, meaning this hadith says أعط كل ذي حق حقه, give each one the due right. Okay, so as the hadith says, your family has a right upon you, your Lord, your Rabb has a right upon you, your guest has a right upon you. أعط كل ذي حق حقه, give each one the due right. And I think that's the name of the game here. Sometimes you have to, you cannot be 100% across all your roles. That's, you can't be 100% as a family man, as a work person. There's choice you have to make. There's choice of the energy, focus, and time. Where do I spend my energy, my focus, and time? So the question is, how do I ration my energy, focus, and time across these areas? Well, I look at each role and say, what is the haqq of this role? I have for example, the haqq of your parents when they're young and healthy.
The right of your parents.
The right, the right of your parents when they're young and healthy compared when they're very old and need your help is different. So maybe this time it's easy, it's more flexible, but there'll come a point where you have to give more energy, focus, and time to them. The haqq of your children, the right of your children. When they're young, they need more of your energy and focus and time versus when they're old. Work, there's seasons of work. Sometimes it's very busy, sometimes it's more relaxed. When it comes to community work, sometimes very busy, sometimes very work. And almost like the name of the game, that's why I wrote kind of both books, The Productive Muslim and The Barakah Effect, is to make choices with our energy, focus, and time that are aligned with how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to fulfill these roles, and making sure that we don't end up sort of burning out across, while we're doing that. So for example, okay, I know that I have to take care of my parents getting very old, I get to take care of them. That means I have to reduce my performance in some areas to increase my performance here, right? Actually I have this. So now this is where you need to this is the name of the game. How do I manage my energy, my focus, my time across these roles? Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you doing this, and you're balancing the huquq, you're trying your best to fulfill the rights of all these people, that's when He gives barakah, right? Where you feel like sometimes you feel, oh wow, I could do so much, in the little time I did so much. This thing used to take me a week or two, now in 3 days I'm done, right? This needs to require a lot more energy, now it requires less energy. I feel I have more energy still, even though before it was very tiring, but now I can be able to do it. Because He sees you trying to fulfill the huquq. And then I also say, seek Allah's help. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Oh Allah, we worship You. We're trying to be Your slaves. We need Your help. We can't balance it all. We can't have that high himma intention. Have that thing you want to go for. But ask Allah for help, because I can't do this on my own. I'm weak, and recognize that. Again, hustle culture is very it's kind of like, oh yeah, you could do it, right? You are your own destiny. You can achieve whatever you want. Versus Barakah culture is like, remember, you are a slave God, and you have responsibilities, and there are rights upon you. Fulfill those rights, do your best, have those high himma, those high spiritual intentions, work hard, attachment outcome, and you'll see the barakah in your life, inshallah.
Inshallah. Brother Mohammed Faris, we got some quick questions we ask at the end.
Bismillah.
Speed round. If you were to have one superpower, what would it be?
Keep writing.
Really? Wow, keep working. You just talked about hustle culture, man.
No, I think writing is the most powerful. As I mentioned to you before the show, sometimes it's amazing how when you write something, and then you can impact culture, right? Just like podcasts, just like I think writing isn't. People think, oh, no one reads books. People do read books. So I think if I wish I could write more, for sure. That's one support I would like to have.
Yeah, for sure. That's nice. When Allah, inshallah, grants you Jannah, what's the first thing you'd like to do outside of meet the Prophet ﷺ and other prophets?
Tell my pals. I don't know.
Chill at your palace.
Allah alam, على سور متقابلين, right? Meeting the good brothers like yourself, inshallah, reminiscing on this podcast.
Oh, bro, if you want to be with me, the first thing in Jannah, bro. Even I judge you a little bit for that.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah. May Allah make us into. I think our mind be so blown away, but we won't know what to start with. Like, let's spend like years, kind of like that your jaws drop because you don't know what to expect. So it's fine.
Yeah.
May Allah make us feel Jannah, inshallah.
If you were to time travel to one place in the future or past, observe or live, up to you, not the Prophet ﷺ's time, what would it be?
I'd love to go see the time of when Aqsa is free, inshallah, and know what happened to get us there, because we were from a rock bottom situation right now, inshallah ta'ala, to the Aqsa is free, which you know is going to happen, inshallah ta'ala.
That's only someone from Yemen would answer like that, man. I've had Palestinians on there, man. That answer. MashaAllah, man. I love the people of Yemen. You're Yemeni. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
I love the people. Hey, by the way, you guys run Dallas when it comes to business. Have you noticed this?
It's funny. It's amazing. I love watch all the Yemeni coffee shops. May Allah bless them. Some great stuff.
Man, I always tell, because my family, I mean, obviously, Egyptians love Yemenis. And my family's always just like, they're amazing. They're the best. Even in Saudi, when we go for Umrah and stuff, if there's a Yemeni tagir, if there's a Yemeni merchant, it's way better than any other. Even the Egyptians, I'm like, no, I'll go with the Yemeni. Alhamdulillah, brother. May Allah bless the people of Yemen, the greatest people on earth, down the Palestinians, for sure. Brother Mohammed Faris, that's all the questions that I have for you, man. Is there any final thoughts you got before we head off?
No, may Allah accept from you, accept from the team and everyone involved in this, and help spread Barakah culture. Again, I always say the advice I always leave people whenever I feel overwhelmed, like, okay, how do I start? Is have sincere intentions and work hard. I think if you just live by that, inshallah ta'ala, you'll see barakah in your life, inshallah ta'ala.
Yeah, good intentions, right?
That's it.
Like your grandfather used to say.
Allah.
Brother Mohammed Faris, the author of the Barakah Effect and The Productive Muslim. You can find him at theproductivemuslim.com, where you could follow his blog. It's a blog, right? And also buy his book, also on Amazon and many other locations. Thank you so much for joining the Ansari Podcast.
Barakallah feek. Thanks for having me. Barakallah feek. Allah hafadhak.
And thank you guys for listening to the Ansari Podcast. I'm so excited to be bringing you guys this exclusive opportunity for Ansari Podcast listeners. We've officially partnered up with Alif to back the next generation of Muslim founders. We're partnering up to launch the Alif Network, a global pipeline into startups for Muslim builders. So if you're a developer, an engineer, a designer, a writer, a marketer, or more, and you'd like to work for one of the fastest growing startups in the world today, then head over to alif.build/network-tap or press the link in my bio and apply for free today.